afternoon, everybody. I will be talking of Neisseria today. Neisseria is a group of bacteria which causes different infections. Mainly two groups which are more pathogenic to women, causing meningococcemia, and other is gonorrhea. So we will go through this throughout this session, and in the end, the students should know like what is the morphology of Neisseria, what are the antigens, what are the clinical presentations, what is the pathogenesis, how do you diagnose laboratory, and how will you interpret those results, and how can one prevent these infections and treat it. So these are gram-negative diplococci. They are all catalase and oxidase positive, non-motile, aerobic. The pathogens are usually Neisseria gonorrhea and Neisseria meningitis. Though there are other Neisseria, they are commensals like Neisseria lactemica, flavances, mucosa, Zika, subflava. Many of them are not affecting the infections, and they are just commensals. Maybe we can get in throat also. So coming to Neisseria meningitis, which is positive organisms for meningococcus. And meningococcus is a concern to us because it does cause outbreaks. There may be early death. So we have to identify it and diagnose it timely so that timely intervention, antibiotics can be given, and we can control the spread and the morbidity, mortality. They are gram-negative diplococci, but this diplococci, when you see, they have adjacent ends which are flat, okay? Or they are also called as land-shaped or half-moon shaped. The virulence factor in this bacteria is most of the time capsular polysaccharide, and because of this capsular polysaccharide, this capsule avoids its absorption through complement destruction. So this remains as a virulence factor. There are 13 serogroups like A, B, C, X, Y, and Y1W35. They account for majority of the invasive disease. They also are non-capsulated, non-pathogenic, but mostly these are this. They have outer membrane proteins, lipid polysaccharides, and endotoxin. They also act as a virulence factor. There is another IgA protease, which is also one of the virulence factor. Then they have transferrin binding proteins. So these all comprise of virulence factor. If you see the epidemiology, the disease pattern has different groups in different geographical belt. Like group A is usually seen in epidemic sub-Saharan African, and sporadic cases are seen globally. Group B is mostly seen in USA. Hyper-epidemic cases, endemic cases are seen more than 5 lakhs. And group C causes outbreaks and sporadic cases. Group X and Y is usually associated with small outbreaks and sporadic cases. And group W135 causes sporadic cases, epidemics, which are seen in sub-Saharan area. There is high prevalence area is sub-Saharan Africa. In India, sporadic cases do occur. There may be occasional outbreaks have been reported in North India. The season usually when the disease occurs is mostly winter and spring. There are two peaks which are involved. One is 3 months to 5 years of age, and other is young adults, that is 15 to 25 years of age. The risk factors that promote colonization of this bacteria are overcrowding, semi-closed communities like closed schools, military camps, refugee camps, or the travelers accumulated in one place like Hajj pilgrimages, smoking, viral and mycoplasma infection of respiratory infection. All these are high risk factors. There are other high risk factors which promote disease. The previous one were the risk factors which promote colonization, and these which promote disease are deficiency of terminal complement component like from C5 to C9. Then eucolism therapy is a terminal complement inhibitor, that or hypogammaglobulinemia and hyposplenism. These all can promote the disease. Okay. Now looking at the pathogenesis, humans are the source of infection, and they may be infected or they may be nasopharyngeal carrier, most commonly seen in children, right, which is the most common occurrence. Then mode of transmission is droplet inhalation. The portal of entry can be nasopharynx, and spread of infection from nasopharynx to meninges occurs through hematogenous route, causing septicemia, which is most commonly seen in meningococcemia patient. Direct spread can also occur through olfactory nerve, then affecting cribriform plate, or rarely through conjunctiva. Coming to the clinical manifestation, most of the common patients will be asymptomatic. There will be colonization, but symptoms won't be there. The other presentation starts is rashes, a non-blanching rash or petechial or purpural rash, which is seen in 80% of the cases. And this is something alarming. Once you see the rash, you can take a specimen from it and it becomes diagnostic, right? Then there may be septicemia, which is due to endotoxin-induced endothelial injury. So there will be increased vascular permeability and intravascular thrombosis, leading to septicemia. Then Waterhouse-Friderichs syndrome is associated with meningococcus. Fulminant meningococcemia, in such patients you will see this presentation. You have large purpuric rashes, shock, DIC, and bilateral adrenal hemorrhage. Ultimately, multi-organ failure is seen. Then you have group of patients with pyogenic meningitis, usually seen in 3 to 5 years of age, and they present with fever, vomiting, headache, neck rigidity, all the signs of meningitis. Then there can be chronic meningococcemia, though it is rare, but it is still seen when you have repeated episodes of petechial rash, fever, arthritis, and splenomegaly. Then another entity is post-meningococcal reactive disease. What happens here is the immune complexes are developed, and after 4 to 10 days of disease, they later on stay and can affect causing joints, causing arthritis, can cause rash, can cause iritis, can cause pericarditis, polyserositis, and fever. Mortality is high in these patients. More than 10%, may go up to 50% if untreated and not interrupted early. And there is high sequelae of high frequency of severe sequelae, which is more than 10% of patients may go to severe sequelae. Coming to the laboratory diagnosis, CSF is one of the sample which is best sample, but in initial stages when you have rash, the skin scraping should be taken and from the rash, and if they're chemically fixed and you just 2 gram stain, which is simple stain, easily can be done even at peripheral layer, it becomes diagnostic. You can even take blood samples as for the laboratory diagnosis. Going one by one, if you take CSF, it needs to be immediately processed. CSF in meningococcemia should never be refrigerated because they are fragile and they will die. This bacteria will die in cold temperature. Okay, so that's one precaution one has to take. Once you suspecting meningitis caused by Neisseria, CSF should be at room temperature, never refrigerator. Okay. Second sample is blood culture, which is taken in brain heart infusion broth. You can even take another samples like nasopharyngeal swabs, pus, scrapings I have already told you from rashes, and they can be transported in Stewart's medium or selective medium, or can be streaked at bedside. The other is you can use Thermartin media or New York City media. They become selective media for Neisseria. Now, once the CSF is collected, it's usually divided as a precious specimen into 3. First part goes to biochemical analysis. You can even do capsular antigen, or you can do the gram stain, as I said, after chemical fixation maybe. And second portion, you inoculate on enriched media, where you can give supplement 5 to 10% of CO2 so that the organism grow well. You can use blood agar or chocolate agar media here for the growth. And third portion is inoculated in BHI broth, which can even be inoculated for longer time, or you can even centrifuge and take the deposit and put it in BHI to have better yield. Any of these options can be used. Coming to the microscopy, as we started, the edges are flattened, okay? Adjacent sides are flat, is a gram-negative diplococci. present mostly intracellular inside the polymorphs. Occasionally you may see extracellular also. Okay. When you do the biochemical test, they are catalase and oxidase positive. They will ferment both glucose and maltose, but not sucrose. And this is one of the differentiating point where gonococci will ferment only glucose and not maltose. There are many molecular diagnostic tests like RT-PCR or even multiplex PCR for meningeal panels, which you can go for, which is common nowadays. Since serology, you can go for antibodies to capsular antigens by ELISA method. You can have even retrospective diagnosis, or you can even know the response post-vaccination, and you can diagnose chronic meningococcemia. The treatment lies, the drug of choice is third generation cephalosporin. Penicillin can also be given, however, there are reduced sensitivity reported from some of the parts of the world. But in general, cephalosporins are good drug of choice. Symptomatic treatment needs to be given as per the SLO. You have to give aggressive fluid, resuscitation, and and measures to decrease the intracranial pressure. Prevention you can do by eradicating colonization of close contacts, give ceftriaxone as a drug of choice. Alternatively, you can give rifampicin or ciproflox. Immunoprophylaxis, you can give polysaccharides vaccine. You may have bivalent vaccine of A and C group, or you have quadrivalent A, C, Y, and W135. 2 doses are usually given in children at 3 to 18 months of age, and single dose given above 2 years of age. Efficacy of vaccine is above 95% and duration of protection stays good from 3 to 5 years. No vaccines for serogroup B, as capsule is less immunogenic and even can cause cephalotogenic properties are there. That's why it is avoided. You can prevent by conjugated vaccine given to children by less than 3 years of age, and even you can give in high risk group Y patient who are exposing or you are working in outbreaks, patients with splenic dysfunction, patients having terminal complement component deficiency, taking izucovan therapy, and lab staff working at risk. Okay. Now these are the few differences. Going further to gonococcus, before we go, these are the differences. Meningitis is, Neisseria meningitis is capsulated, while gonorrhea is non-capsulated. In meningitis, the diplococci has flattened adjacent end, while in gonorrhea, sides are concave. This ferments both glucose, maltose, and gonorrhea ferments only. You can remember G for G, only ferment glucose. The other important aspect is Neisseria meningitis rarely have plasmid, but in gonorrhea, they usually possess plasmid, which is codes for drug resistance genes, and that's it responsible for drug resistance. Neisseria meningitis can be seen intra-extracellular both, but gonorrhea is usually intracellular. The colonies are circular in meningitis, while in gonorrhea they vary in size and has irregular margin. And habitat in meningitis is nasopharynx, while in gonorrhea the habitat is genital tract, urethra, cervix, and rarely pharynx. Okay. Now coming next to Neisseria gonorrhea or gonococcus. It has virulence factor like pili, fimbria, which cause adhesion to host cells and prevent phagocytosis. It also has outer membrane proteins, protein 1, which is seen in more than 15% of outer membrane protein. Protein B1A strains, which cause local and disseminated gonococcal infection. Porine BA1 and porine B1B strains, which are responsible for local genital infections only. Okay. So A is causing disseminated and local gonococcal infection, and B strains porine B are responsible for local genital infection. The other virulence factors are opacity associated protein, protein 2, which cause adhesion to neutrophils and other gonococci. The other is transferrin binding and lactoferrin binding proteins, IgA protease, which cause protection from mucosal immunoglobulin A, and lipopolysaccharide, which cause endotoxic activity. The clinical manifestation is called gonorrhea. In males, it causes acute urethritis, most common manifestation. It can be purulent urethral discharge. Gonorrhea is flow of seed, how the name came. and incubation period is within a week, 2 to 7 days. Complication occurs like epididymitis, prostatitis, balanitis, or Watercan perineum. In females, infection is less severe as compared. They are more asymptomatic carriers than males. They have mucopurulent cervicitis as a most common presentation, and they even have vulvovaginitis in pubertal girls and postmenopausal women. Vagina mucosa is thinned out and higher pH. Not in adult females. They are resistant to gonococcal infection, low pH and high stratified squamous epithelium. The spread usually occurs through Bartholin glands, endometrium and fallopian tube, salpingitis and PID, pelvic inflammatory disease, ultimately leading to sterility is one of the cause by Neisseria gonococci. Then Fuchs-Sutris syndrome is rare, but it causes peritonitis and perihepatic inflammation. Both the sexes can have anorectal gonorrhea, pharyngeal gonorrhea and ocular gonorrhea as per habits. Pregnant women may have prolonged rupture of membranes, premature delivery, chorioamnionitis and sepsis in the infant. And in neonates, ophthalmia neonatorum is seen, which cause is through to colonized maternal genital flora, and the babies will have purulent eye discharge within 2 to 5 days of birth. Okay. Previously it was much more commonly seen, now it is less commonly seen, but definitely now gonococcal drug resistance is seen, though the incidence is less, but it has surged again. Then disseminated gonococcal infection, rarely following gonococcal bacteremia. It causes polyarthritis, rarely dermatitis and endocarditis. In HIV-infected patients, non-ulcerative gonorrhea is seen. If you see the epidemiology, incidence is decreased in developed countries, maybe due to underreporting due to stigma, or maybe it has shut down. The host is exclusively, it's a human disease. Source is asymptomatic female carrier and less often the patient. Transmission can be through sexual contact, venereal or mother to baby during birth. Now coming to the lab diagnosis, what kind of specimen you collect and how you transport. Specimen usually needed is urethral swab in men and cervical swab in women. You can use Dacron or rayon swabs, or in chronic urethritis, even the secretions of by prostatic massage or morning drop of secretion can be used for culture. Transport media can be charcoal coated swabs kept in Stewart's media, Ami's transport media, or Zembec or Gonopac systems can be used. If you see the microscopy here, they are gram-negative intracellular kidney-shaped diplococci with little concave inside and has 50% sensitivity. When you do the culture, endocervical culture has sensitivity of 80 to 90%, and cervical swabs, though also contain normal flora, their selective media are preferred, which will inhibit commensal Neisseria. So Thayer-Martin media is a selective media which has chocolate agar with vancomycin, colistin and nystatin as drugs. The other media selective is modified New York City media, where you use lyse blood agar, lincomycin, colistin, trimethoprim and amphotericin B. The other is Martin-Lewis media. Once the organism is grown, you do biochemical tests to differentiate gonococci from other commensal Neisseria. Gonococci are catalase oxidase positive, ferment only glucose, but maltose and sucrose are not fermented. The drug of choice in treatment is third generation cephalosporins for complicated gonococcal infections. Both the sexual partners should be treated with ceftriaxone 250 mg IM single dose or cefixime 400 mg given orally single dose. If coexisting chlamydia infection, you even add azithromycin and doxycycline. Okay. Drug resistance, as I already mentioned, is commonly seen. PPNG is penicillinase producing Neisseria gonococci, which is commonly seen. They are plasmid coded for beta-lactamase and transferred by conjugation. Chromosome mediated resistant Neisseria gonococci are also seen. They are resistant to penicillin and tetracycline. Mutations at multiple sites which decrease the permeability of the cell to antibiotics. Then tetracycline resistant Neisseria gonorrhoeae, which is plasmid borne, and quinolone resistant Neisseria gonorrhoeae. All these drug resistance is seen. The other entity is called non-gonococcal non-specific urethritis. It is sometimes asked to even in exams for examination point of view. It causes chronic urethritis where gonococcal cannot be demonstrated. This NGU is more common than gonococcal urethritis. The Chlamydia trachomatis is the most common agent. The other can be Uroplasma uroliticum, Mycoplasma hominis, or gonococcal infection. The cocci, in gonococcal infection, what you see is the cocci in L form. So you have to differentiate between all these causes of non-gonococcal urethritis. There can be viruses besides bacteria causing non-gonococcal urethritis like herpes simplex virus, cytomegalovirus. It could be due to fungi like Candida albicans or parasite like Trichomonas vaginalis. All these account for non-gonococcal or non-specific urethritis. One has to go one by one and rule out. Now, gonococcal versus non-gonococcal urethritis, if you differentiate, in gonococcal urethritis, the onset is 48 hours, while in non-gonococcal, it may be more than a week. The urethral discharge is purulent in gonococcal urethritis, while in non-gonococcal urethritis, mucus to mucopurulent. Complications are polyarthritis and endocarditis, and water perineum can be seen in gonococcal urethritis, while in non-gonococcal urethritis, what you see is Ritter syndrome, conjunctivitis, urethritis, arthritis, and mucosal lesion. All these becomes your MCQ in pre-PG or entrance exam. Other complications are common to both gonococcal and non-gonococcal urethritis, as in male you see epididymitis, prostatitis, seminal vesiculitis, and balanitis. In female they suffer from salpingitis, PID, and Fuchs-Cutis syndrome. How will you diagnose this? Gonococcal urethritis, you easily go for gram stain and culture on selective media like Thayer-Martin media. And non-gonococcal urethritis, you have to go one by one. For chlamydia, you have to culture on McCoy and HeLa cell lines. For trichomonas, you can do for trophozoite detection. In candida, you can detect budding yeast. Cells in discharge. PCR can be done for herpes simplex virus or chlamydia, okay, or any other PCR can be used. So